We are back and we're going to be doing an update video on how the AFC North has fared in week 4 of the NFL season. And we're going to start from the top down. We're going to go with the Cleveland Browns who, wait a minute, the Browns, they're still, no, it has to be from, is that from last week? No, the Cleveland Browns are still at the top of the division, which is weird to think about. I guess despite me ranting and raving about how awful they were and, how the coaching staff should all, they made horrible decisions and everything. Despite their, crapping their pants against the Falcons, they still managed to maintain first in the division with a 2-2 record and a 1-0 divisional record due to the Steelers game on Thursday night in week 3. So basically they're just in front because of their win over Pittsburgh. I do think that they have major question marks at the coaching positions and leadership, and it might be possible for them to right the ship. I do think that their mistakes are fixable. It's just whether or not the coaching staff realizes that they can just fix them, essentially. This team is 2-2. You could argue that, hey, they're not crapping their pants against two bad teams away from being 4-0, although you could argue that they are a miracle field goal and maybe a healthy TJ Watt away from being 0-4, because, the Cade York field goal was improbable at best, especially considering the circumstances, and that Steelers game was pretty competitive, and if you think about it, a guy like TJ Watt being on that defense just might turn the tides in favor of the Steelers just a little bit. Their next game is at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. I almost said San Diego, which I would prefer, but unfortunately, it's the Chargers. They looked really good today in their game. Justin Herbert looked, he looked like not hurt at all. He looked fine. So that's going to be a tough matchup for the Browns, especially with the momentum that they have right now. All right, moving on to second in the division, we have the Baltimore Ravens. They lost on a last-second 21-yard field goal to the Buffalo Bills in the score of 20-23. That's the same score that the Browns lost to the Falcons at. Not a good score for the AFC North team so far. That might seem like a valiant defeat against one of these Super Bowl contenders, but when you put it into the context of the game, it looks a lot worse. J.K. Dobbins had a really impressive first quarter. I think he had 2 touchdowns. The Ravens are up 20-3 with less than 2 minutes to go in the first half. They would allow a touchdown right before the half. And I do think having to settle for field goals on drives where up 14-3 and 17-3 does keep a team like Buffalo pretty much right there in the game, where if they have enough time, they will make you pay for, doing something like not scoring at all in the second half. That 4th and goal call from John Harbaugh was it was kind of an all or nothing thing, and I'm not sure how much I agree with it. If you're gonna run it, at least put a running back in there. The empty set was a bit confusing, but whatever. It's not, maybe you want to get some points on the board just in case you don't get the 4th down conversion or whatever, and you don't give the other team all the momentum to go down and score. But I guess that, again, I'm not a head coach, so that's not just me. But now the Ravens are, they're having this pattern of having an issue of not being able to close out opponents again, whether it is Miami. The Patriots kind of fancied having a little bit of a comeback before a couple of turnovers by the Ravens defense and kind of a risky Mac Jones plays, kind of squash that. But it's been a few weeks now where the Ravens games that probably should have been put away earlier are a little bit more interesting longer than they should be. Sometimes they result in wins, sometimes they result in losses for the Ravens. But for the first, quarter of the season, it's been an issue of can they close out games? Can they keep games that are, blowouts? Can they keep them that way? And so far the answer has been not usually. We're going to move on now to the new third-ranked team in the division, the Cincinnati Bengals. They beat the Dolphins on Thursday by the score of 27-15. Before I get any further, the Ravens have their next game against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, and they host that in Baltimore. So, again, back to the Bengals. They beat the Dolphins on this Thursday. Again, that game featured a horrible injury from Tua. Everybody's said their piece about it. I agree that he probably should not have gone back in last Sunday when it was apparent that he was he was wobbly and off balance. He probably shouldn't have been let back in. And, obviously the injury that he suffered on Thursday is evidence that he probably was still should not have been good to play. But Essentially, yeah, that's the take on the Tua stuff. I agree with most of what people say that whoever allowing him to play is probably not the best move from the NFL, but from both a player health and now a PR standpoint, that Tua has this public injury that was on national TV. The Bengals were the only AFC North team to get a win this week. On even weeks, so weeks 2 and 4, the AFC North is a collective 1-7. The Bengals were repping the all-white uniforms. They looked pretty good. Not gonna lie, but I don't like teams wearing white uniforms at home, even if it is a gimmicked version. It's just a personal thing. The uniforms look fine. I would have just wore them on the road. Whatever. Maybe the game goes a little differently if Tua is still in for the second half, because that game was still competitive going into the fourth quarter. But the Bengals can't help that. They can only play who they play against, and if it was a Teddy Bridgewater-led Miami Dolphins team, then that's who it has to be. The Bengals got it done like a good team should. They've won 2 straight now. They are 2-2. And as far as having the most upward trajectory, it does look like the Bengals seem most game to take this division lead, as the Browns and Ravens are kind of floundering away games that they should probably win. And again, the Bengals play the Ravens in Baltimore next week in Sunday Night Football, and depending on how that Browns-Chargers game goes, that game could be for the division lead, at least for now. And we have a new court jester in the AFC North, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lose to the Jets 20-24. If you're an AFC North team and you scored 20 points this week, that means you lost. The Bengals cleared the 20-point threshold with 27, so good for them. If you were stuck with 20, you lost. A lot of interceptions off of tipped balls for both teams, really. Zach Wilson caught a Philly special touchdown and then hit the gritty in whatever they're calling Heinz Field now, which I as a Browns fan, that was just I needed some kind of like happy medicine to cheer me up for the Falcons game, and seeing Zach Wilson catching a touchdown and hitting the gritty in Pittsburgh is nice to see. The offense with Mitch Trubisky at the helm was inconsistent at its very best, and most of the time it was just anemic, which is what it was at its worst. And that absolutely not diagnosis from Coach Tomlin when asked if he would consider switching quarterbacks, that absolutely not turned into, of course we're switching quarterbacks at halftime. Kenny Pickett's first pass was also an interception off of kind of a tip where it was a bit of tight coverage. The defender kind of got his hand in there. The ball kind of floated in the air a little bit, and then another defender was there to get the interception. Not exactly like a horrible pick or thing. It's just kind of, welcome to the NFL. Your first throw was an interception. Not really your fault, but whatever. Kenny Pickett would get a quarterback sneak touchdown from the 1, and he would get a little 2-yard touchdown scramble. That would put the Steelers in the lead 20-10. However, with 7:31 left in the game, Corey Davis would catch a touchdown pass from Zach Wilson to make it 20-17. Another interception off of a receiver's fingers for Kenny Pickett. And then Breece Hall would get a rushing touchdown with 9 seconds left to seal the game. And the Steelers' next game is on the road against the Bills. Yikes. So no easy matchups next week for any of the AFC North teams. You have the Browns with a red-hot Chargers team coming into Cleveland. The Steelers are playing the Bills at home. At the Bills' home is what I meant to say. And the Bengals and the Ravens are playing each other. Again, depending on how that Cleveland game goes, they could be playing for the divisional lead. So that's pretty much all that's been going on in the AFC North for this week. Please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the video and like to see more like it. Thank you all for watching until the end if you did indeed make it this far. Let me know what you think about the AFC North down in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you at the next one.